Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, welcome in our presentation. Today we have one material that is how to teach English, approach, method, and technique to teach English. Let me introduce myself for the first time. My name is Sakinah Wardatul Jannah, and I am as a first presenter. Here I'm not standing alone. I'm with some of my friends from my class. Let me introduce of them. The second presenter is Alfiyana Rosidah, and the third one is Ayu Viandari, and the fourth presenter is Angga Firman Maulana, and the last presenter is Abdur Rahman. Okay, let's start the presentation from the theory How to Teach English by Chomsky. The theory that can support this presentation is Chomsky theory 1964, who argue that in language learning, children already have the internal capacity that they had been carrying from birth. Chomsky said that the environment only functions as input and language acquisition device, or LED, is what will manage input and determine what is mastered first, such as sounds, words, phrase, sentence, and so on. Thus, the abilities possessed by human have been programmed biology, so that human can learn the language. And then that ability grew and developed in line with the child's biological growth, like brain, speech organs, and others, which in the end can learn grammar rules. So that sentence that have not been heard before will and enable to pronounce correctly and consistently because of the LED. Okay, next, the second slide is the language is not something that is acquired suddenly. And learning a language will not be successful without there being a situation of use mean. Creativity is the main thing in language acquisition so that someone can speak in everyday life. There are two main indicators used to measure the language potential of someone, namely competence and performance. In principle, competence and performance are different. Competence regarding speaker-listener knowledge of the language, while performance is the actual use of language in the context of communication. Thus, it can be said that language learning is not something that is obtained suddenly, without any combination of the two indicators, well as the situation that underlies the language. Process these competencies become a prerequisite for the performance process, which consists of two processes, namely the process of understanding and the process of publishing. These two processes will become a child's linguistic ability. Okay, now we move to how to approach English. And here we have two models of the approach English. The first one is student-centered approach. The student-centered approach is learning approach that focus on the learner rather than the rather than the teacher. Student-centered teaching is based on the constructivist model in which students construct rather than receive or assimilate knowledge. Something like student should be active in the classroom. And the second one of the model approach is teacher-centered approach. The teacher-centered learning is the approach of teaching a lesson in front of classroom, in which the teacher active give information to the students. It involves planning for instruction, implementing the instructional plan, and evaluating students' learning towards the instructional objective. Okay, that's all my explanation as the first presenter. Now move to the second explanation by second presenter Alfiyana Rosidah. Let's check it out.
Okay, I will continue it. Our next material is about English learning method. By using right learning method, all our difficulties in understanding any English material can be handled. Our understanding process is also faster, so it doesn't take long to become proficient in English. There are 10 methods. What we will discuss for now for the first method is the grammar translation method. Just like its name suggests, this method of teaching English is grammar heavy and relies a lot on translation. This is the traditional or classical way of learning a language, and it's still commonly used when learning some language. Some countries prefer this style of teaching, and the main idea behind this method is that the student learning all grammar rules, so they're able to translate a number of sentences. This is particularly common for those students who wish to study literature at the deeper level. For the second method is the audiolingual. The audiolingual method, otherwise known as the UK method or Army method, is based on a behaviorist theory that things are able to be learned by constant reinforcement. However, just like in the army when someone behaves badly, or this case bad use of English, the learning receives negative feedback, and the contrary happens when a student demonstrates good use of English. This is related to the direct method, and just like its predecessor, it only used the target language. The biggest difference between the audiolingual method and the direct method is focus of teaching. The direct method focuses on the teaching of vocabulary, whereas the audiolingual method focuses on specific grammar. For the third method is the structural approach. As the name suggests, the method is all about structure. The idea is that any language is made up of complex grammar rules. Those rules, according to this approach, need to be learned in a specific order. For example, the logical thing would be to teach the verb to be prior to teaching the present continuous, which requires using the auxiliary form of the verb to be. For the fourth method is sagastopedia. This is a behaviorist theory and related to pseudoscience. This method relies heavily on student belief about the method's effectiveness. This theory is intended to offer learners various choices, which in turn help them become more responsible for their learning. It relies a lot on the atmosphere and the physical surrounding of the class. It's essential that all learners feel equally comfortable and confident. When teachers are training to use the suggestive method, there's a lot of art and music involved. Each suggestia lesson is divided into three different phases. For the first is deciphering, second concert, session 3, elaboration for the next total physical response. For the next method, total physical response, otherwise known as TPR, is an approach that follows the idea of learning by doing. Beginners will learn English through a series of repetitive actions such as stand up, open your book, close the door, and walk to the window and open it. With TPR, the most important skill is our competition, and everything else will follow natural later. Okay, for the next method, number 6 until 10 in next discussion.
The next method is communication language teaching. Teacher help their students for can communication effective. In here, a teacher is facilitator. So, teacher help their student for developing skill their language communication. The seventh method is silent way. Silent way, the role students is more active, be active, and the teacher mostly silent because the teacher in here just evaluation from their observation. Question the students active or not in class, and of course the teacher in here pass their students to be active always in class. Number 8 method is community language learning. The roles teacher in here most important because they be counselor for their students. Then build good situation or comfortable situation for the students. And then the students can be comfortable to focus in class. Number 9 method is text-based language learning. Of this learning approach is task complete, usually relevant and interesting assessments set by teacher and students more are expected. Make use the assisting knowledge of English to solve it in text with a few errors as possible. And the last method is lexical approach. Lexical approach is identify the most commonly word used. In this learning, focus on acquiring vocabulary and teaching chunk lexical order in order of frequency and their use. Very lexical teacher approach emphasizes authentic material and realistic scenario for more learning valuable. I want to say if our understanding process is also faster, so it doesn't take long to become proficient in English. Next slide is about technique.
Okay, in this section I will explain you about the English technique. English technique is a method, namely how to do or do something. So the technique of teaching or teaching is effort, method used by teacher to carry out teaching or face-to-face teaching in the classroom in order to present and combine material learning in order to achieve learning objective from in the curriculum at that time. Yeah. Therefore, it is implementative and implementation at the stage of presentation and stabilization. If we educate teacher who teach in class, that is appear in the teacher students activities, teacher student activities is a teaching technique. I'm sorry. So it can be ignored that learning technique are tactic or methods used by teacher in implementing them teaching and learning activities in order to obtain optimal results. Learning technique determined based on the method we use and the method is prepared based on the approach adopted. So, the learning technique are divided into the two parts, the general technique and special technique. Uh, the general technique. The general technique is a method that can be used for all areas of study. Common technique include the following lecture technique, some things like question and answer technique, discussion technique, opinion gathering technique, and the others.
Okay, now I will explain the next material. Special technique. A special technique is a way of teaching, presenting, or referencing material subject in a particular field of study. Specific language teaching techniques vary a lot. This is because technique refers to presenting material in small scope. In every teaching and learning activity, for example, an Indonesian teacher only uses one method, say a specific method of language learning, which is supported by a number of approaches and principles, but uses a number of techniques, both general and specific. This technique varies over time. The next explanation is conclusion. Learning a foreign language is not easy for some students in Indonesia because a foreign language is not an everyday language. But curriculum obligation stipulates that English as the standard of learning in school requires students to learn a foreign language like English. The mother tongue or national language is important to learn, as is the case at this time. Second language learning is also very important because of the many teaching requirements, especially the English test. With the influence of increasingly advanced technology, whether you like it or not, the Indonesian nation itself must follow its development, and one of them is learning English. English has been known since elementary school to high level university. Learning it is also easy and difficult for some students. Therefore, the role of the teacher is very important for students. Okay, I think that's all of our material for this presentation. If there is a mistake, we are apologize. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.